Blackbird episode 4, in the aftermath of a prison riot, Jimmy and Larry really get to connect and really get to establish that connection that we've been waiting to form. The show is doing really well in terms of engaging me into it. Like, there hasn't been a show for a long time since like Game of Thrones and any of those real big blockbuster sort of shows that have been able to really get me looking forward to the weekly release, where I kind of wish that it was just, here's all your 6 episodes so I can just keep watching it. Where this one, unfortunately, isn't as good as all the other ones. It's telling some backstory that we do need, which is good, but there's just a little bit of, the cutscenes are a little bit too long in terms of the flashbacks. So every time there is a flashback, they're probably just that little bit too long, and we do get to learn a little bit more of Jimmy and how he's sort of developed and the interworkings of the picturesque sort of image that he's been deemed as, and you can see some flaws coming in, and he's really using bits and pieces. So he's cherry picking a number of bits to actually give to Larry, and he knows how to work Larry, and he knows what's going to like really be able to get that connection with Larry. That scene with Jimmy, young Jimmy and his mother, just something about that whole scene was off. Like, it was just a really awkward wooden delivery from the mother and actually the young Jimmy there, which unfortunately it could have been a really powerful scene, but for some reason it's that whole scene just felt off. Where the scenes with Larry, so we get Larry's backstory as well, how he was like chosen from his father to have to go and dig graves and help him to, you know, make a living by taking well, essentially grave robbing the victims that they're burying. How that was playing into Larry's sort of psyche and how he's really developed that dissociation with, like, just from those acts from the child that the father was forcing him to do. Just went for like just that little bit too long. There was probably a little bit too much of them where they could have fed that in, and there was probably 1 or 2 cutscenes which you just didn't need whatsoever. But when we're actually focused on the actual prison, so we get Jimmy, who's actually getting to snoop into the cell of Larry, and he's like looking around, where we just know that something's off about Larry, and we know that we really want Jimmy to be able to make that connection and find out where those bodies are, but we still got that mystery of, is Larry really the killer or isn't he? Where when Jimmy's actually in the cell, we get that suspense, the music's building all the way through, and every time there's a noise in the prison, which I'm assuming a prison would be quite noisy, where he's like always being that sort of skittish, waiting for him to come. But then we get that magazine, the Penthouse magazine, where it's got all the drawings of all the sadistic things that we know that Larry's sort of thinking of and delving into. So it's really planting that seed of how far does Larry go in terms of mutilating bodies. Like how they're still feeding you, are you sure that he did it? And there's also that sort of like sadistic side of Larry, where I'm kind of over the guard and Jimmy's like confrontation about that. Just needs to, I was hoping the guard would have died in the actual prison riot, but unfortunately the guard Carter is still there, but it doesn't seem to have enough of a draw card in terms of outing Jimmy into the actual rest of the population to know that obviously he's a policeman's son, where the whole build up of the gang leader, like that's had no impact whatsoever into this actual episode, where after the prison riot and it's like really quiet, so Larry and Jimmy have that conversation and Jimmy's walking past and walking away in the yard from Larry, and that cut to the actual prison riot, like awesome. The changes between the actual prison riot and the quietness, and how it's all the music builds the entire time. So it's really playing into, this is the calm before the storm, and like Larry even pointed out, and they do play into it. Like the whole build up and the whole sequence of it is awesome. And then the riot, like you can see these guys, it's not your standard like prison riot, it's actually really chaotic, which it would be because this is one of those different prisons where everyone's not quite in terms of the mentally sane, so everyone's doing just whatever they want. You can just see it's absolute chaos. After the riot, where they're all cleaning up and Larry's taking charge, and the cut of Larry giving orders and everyone moving with the nice time lapse are really sped up. It's a really nice visual, and then we do get to actually see the the relationship forming between Jimmy and Larry, and you can see every time Jimmy's talking to Larry, he's like, all the cogs are spinning in his head, and you can see he's giving that little bit of information that Larry wants, and Larry's like switch and is kind of suspicious and paranoid of Jimmy, but also like really wants to have that connection because he sees him as like his big brother. Just giving that information, which is just so interesting. You're not quite sure what is true and what's not, and how much he's like making up in terms of his stories and stuff. But like, it's awesome. We got 2 episodes to go, and I'm so excited to see how this is going to end, and is Jimmy going to be able to get all the information from Larry? Like, both of their performances awesome. The flashbacks just went for too long, and the mother's delivery in that scene is just really awkward, which unfortunately is a little bit of a drop in quality from the like previous 2 episodes, which have been fantastic. But let me know what you think below, and you want to make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and take friends.